warm welcome. In the absence of Sister Jarvis, I certainly appreciate her activism for bringing me into this new family that I have adopted as my own, regardless of whether you want me or not. I am State Representative Jarvis Johnson. I'm from Houston, Texas. As attorney has already pointed out. H-Town. On the north side of H-Town, what they call the North, and what they call the Fofo. That's Acres Homes for some of you who may be from Houston. But my work extends from my mother's activism and the sacrifice that she has made all throughout her life. I often tell people about a very bad drug problem that I had as a kid that my mother gave me, and she'll be upset that I'm telling you this in her absence. But because I had a very bad drug problem made me the man that I am today. That drug problem was the problem she gave me because she drugged me everywhere I did not want to be. I didn't want to go to church, she drugged me to church. When I was acting bad at school, she drugged me out the classroom. She did everything she could to give me that drug problem. And I thank her for that drug problem. Because she raised me the way I was supposed to be raised. Because in the Bible it says, train a child up in the way that you would have him go. It didn't say just let him grow up. It said train. And I thank God that my mother trained me. Because she trained me to be a fighter. A fighter for those who cannot fight for themselves. A fighter for those who don't have the voice. A fighter for those who don't have the power. Because my life is about sacrifice, and we as brothers and sisters have to always sacrifice personally if we want to see the gain of our people. And this is where we are today. I was brought to be a part of this organization simply because of the unrest and the unjust happenings that is happening, not only just in Nigeria, but even what's happening here. I truly believe that civilization started in Africa. And civilization will be saved by Africans. But there is a move afoot by the colonizers of Africa to stop Africans and black people all over this world from being the powerful beings that we are. But what brought me to this point was the resolve and the resiliency of a people that wouldn't allow oppressors to simply oppress you. You left from your motherland to come to America in search of a better way, in search of a better life. But the one thing that I'm most impressed about is the fact that my brothers and sisters always reach back. You take your wealth that you've gained here and you continue to send your money, your resources back home. Unfortunately, colonizers are stopping that. And so it's become very apparent that we have to work harder and more diligently than ever. We can't just continue to talk about what we want to do, and we certainly can't wait for others to do for us what we need to be doing for ourselves. And that is to come together to bring our resources, to bring our finances, and to bring our political power to the forefront. Because that is the only way that we will achieve the goals that we have set for freedom. As the attorney has already pointed out, as a state representative, I've passed a lot of bills in the State House. I didn't pass those bills because I was cute. I didn't pass those bills because I knew how to dress nice. I passed those bills because I understood the political power that came with me as a black man. And so being in a Republican State House, I was able to pass bills across the aisle. They didn't want to pass my bills. They fought to stop many of my bills. Some of the bills that I dealt with were sickle cell. I don't know if anybody knows about sickle cell. Anybody know about sickle cell? Of course you know about sickle cell. It affects black people all over the world. And so you understand that they didn't have empathy and understanding of what it meant to have sickle cell. They didn't understand how a black person can walk into a hospital in pain, in crisis, simply to get service, simply to get medical attention. And they're turned away because they said they're drug seeking. They're not drug seeking, they're looking for help. And so my colleagues never understood that, and so they said, that bill is not important. And because they thought my bill wasn't important, I set out to show them how important it was by making sure I stopped every bill they put forth until they passed my bill. How did I do that? I then got with all of my colleagues, the other black brothers and sisters that are state representatives in the state of Texas, the other Democrats in the state of Texas, and we came together and said we won't pass or we won't vote on not one of their bills. And then they understood, wait a minute, we want to build a good old border wall to keep them folks out of our country, out of our land. But we wasn't going to let them build that border wall. And we still don't want them to build that border wall, but sometimes you got to give and you got to take. And so we worked together, and that's how we were able to get those bills passed. That's how we're going to be able to seek the freedom that we desire. We're seeing how the colonizers have used our own brothers and sisters against us to imprison a leader that simply said, we simply want freedom. And so in that brother looking for and desiring freedom for his people, they decided to imprison Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for what reason? The same reason they wanted to imprison Malcolm X, the same reason they killed Martin Luther King, the same reason they go after every black leader that we have, the same reason they killed Mickey Leland, simply because he wanted to feed a bunch of starving kids in Somalia and in Ethiopia. Because they didn't want him doing a simple work of giving humans the right that they rightfully deserve. A right to live without oppression, a right to food. When we understood how and why food was not being given to those countries. And because Mickey did a great work, they decided to take that brother out. I made a conscious decision that I understand that the fight that I'm going to take on may be a dangerous one. But if I, like everybody else, decided that my own personal freedom was more important than the success of my people, then we'll never get anywhere. I agree. And so I made a conscious decision to be a part of this, to continue to bring to the forefront the travesty that is happening in Nigeria, the genocide that is happening, the killings, the rapings that is happening. We must stop that, but we can't stop that with marches in the streets. All of us coming together and marching in the street just simply gives them an opportunity to have target practice, to shoot and kill each and every one of us. How do we make them understand our power? Politically and economically. Martin Luther King set out because they wouldn't let Rosa Parks sit in the front of the bus. And they imprisoned her. And that young man who was 20-something years old did not want to take on this fight, but said he understood why it was important. And the way they brought Montgomery, Alabama to its knees is because black folk in that city said, we ain't riding the bus. And the bus line was a revenue source. And when they started to see that, wait a minute, we can't keep doing this because if we do, then we're not going to make the money. And that's how we're going to see success. So through the work of the African Advocacy Group, I am looking to create political power here in Texas and across the United States. I'm told when I look online and I see the number of black folk that are, number of Nigerians that are in Texas, they tell me it's about 30,000 people.
More than that.
Google it.
Houston only.
Google it.
More than that.
Google it.
More than that in Houston.
Google it. The reason why they tell you it's only 30,000 is because why? They don't want you to realize the power that you have.
Yep.
And if you start realizing that there are 1 million Nigerians living here in the United States, then they understand how can you effectively change the political landscape of this country. Because we as black people,
I went on by any more here.